What's up, guys? Episode 2 of the Northern Knock podcast, the podcast meant to bring a spotlight to the best of the best when it comes to Canadian door knockers. We got a special guest today, a good friend of mine, a co-worker, Bryn Nelson. Bryn, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Bryn sells pest control with the same company that I sell, and he's one of the biggest killers in the game. This guy has continued just to be a top performer year over year, and I'm stoked to have you on, man. I figured I sell pest control. You know, we went through Arjun with the alarms, so now it's time to go back home and talk to a guy who sells pest and kills bugs. So let's quickly go through the numbers just so you guys know who you're talking to. Year one, Bryn burst onto the scene. So massive year one. He came out hot. This was 2022 and had one of the biggest years in Canada. He sold over the number that he sold was $189,350 in serviced revenue. Huge year. You don't see too many rookies come out of the gate that hot. And then this last year, the last summer that we just had, he had $202,988 in serviced revenue. So the man's an absolute killer when it comes to pest control in Canada. He's definitely one of the highest performers. So super happy to have you on the show and pick your brain and figure out, what it is that, makes you successful and one of the best. We're obviously here in Los Cabos. Bryn, how you enjoying Los Cabos? Second time here, right?
It's great. It's been a party. Been boating, partying, hanging out with the guys. It's been great. No complaints at all. So
living like a king, right?
Yes, sir.
A little bit of a sunburn going on here.
Always, yep. Love the heat.
I don't know if the camera can pick up on that, but a little sunburn there. And what'd you do today? What'd you do this morning?
We went out, rented a fishing boat, and we went fishing for marlin and mahi, and sure enough, we didn't catch anything, but it was still a good time. We got to go watch some whales and big sea turtles, and yeah, it was a good time with the guys hanging out on the boat.
Love it, man. Love it. No catches, though.
No catches, but
just the sales game, same thing, right? Sometimes you don't catch anything. Right on, man. Right on. So yeah, special little podcast here. So yeah, we're just gonna talk about a variety of things, but let's just start with the travel, right? Obviously, we're in Cabos. You've obviously, been on a lot of trips this year. And obviously sales has been the vehicle to help you get on those trips. So talk a little bit about that. How has sales kind of influenced your travel and the places that you've gone?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I'm still in school right now, so sales has definitely helped, pay for all my education. That's one of my first priorities. And then, yeah, with the travel part, been able to go to Texas. We're here in Cabo. Took my family to Africa. We went on a big safari excursion over there, and that was something really like my family's always wanted to do, and I was able to kind of take everybody and go do that. And I mean, being early 20s, you don't really get to do that a whole lot. So yeah, just the industry has definitely put me in a place at a younger age to do things that people don't generally get to do at this age. So it's been nothing short of amazing. It's been awesome. So.
Africa, man, that's on my bucket list. You did your mission in Kenya, is that right?
Yeah. So I served a mission for my church over there. Served in Kenya, loved it over there just before COVID. So it was a good time. Yeah, love that place.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, my one of my goals in travel is just I want to go through Africa. I want to get put in the muck. I want to get put in the middle of it. And just experience, a whole new culture. But anyways, cool. Let's get into numbers. So year one, you did $189,000 of service revenue. Just a massive year. Talk about that first year for you. Obviously, you burst on the scene. I believe you finished as the number one, maybe definitely top 3 rookies in Canada. Mm-hmm. Just, what were some of the key metrics to your success in your first year?
Well, I've always believed that no matter what, if you work hard, you're going to succeed at whatever you do. And I kind of took that to heart at this job as many months before I came out in the summer, just jumping on podcasts, listening to sales literature on trainings and things like that. I kind of understood that if you work hard, you're going to do well at the job. And so I feel like that first year I came in and I just had the mentality of there's nobody that's going to beat me. I want to be the best, and there's nobody that's going to work harder than me to get that. And I think I kept that mentality through the entire summer, and that's what propelled me. It was just like my alarm I still wake up to from my first summer was wake up and go work harder than everybody else, because no one's going to work hard for you, right? And nothing's given to you, especially in this industry. So you just gotta work your butt off, really.
I love that. Yeah, Bryn is known as one of the hardest workers in our company, if not the entire industry. The guy works like an absolute dog. Where does that work ethic come from?
So I grew up in a very rural community, town of 90 people. Everybody farms or ranches, and so I grew up riding horses, working with cattle, driving tractors, working long hours, and, not really getting too much of it, just working for my dad. And so I think from a young age, I just learned to work hard for what you want, and kind of like I said before, nothing's really given to you. If you want something, you got to go get it. And so I think definitely working for my family ranch was definitely one of the things I just learned from my dad, one of the hardest working guys I know.
I love that. Yeah, you rancher boys, you guys got a whole nother level when it comes to work ethic. You guys used to put in 12-hour days?
Yeah, at least. Sometimes, during the time of year, you don't come home all night. You're at the barn calving cows, and, you roll it in from the midnight check, and you show back up, back home at 7 o'clock. At that time in the morning, you're just getting ready to go to school, and then you go to school. You don't sleep much, but, you just kind of get used to the fact that you got to work, right? Yeah, I love that, man. Okay, cool. So, yeah, obviously you absolutely smashed your first year.
This second year, you did $203,000 of service revenue. Kind of what I've seen in the pest control industry in Canada is the upper echelon, the upper tier of pest control salesmen right now are selling $200K plus. That's kind of the upper echelon. That's where it goes, into a whole new category of the best of the best. Obviously, it was a great year for you, and you managed a team for your first time. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So talk about that. How did you adapt to, turning into a manager? You managed what, 10 guys, 10 to 20 guys?
Yeah.
So just talk to me about the learning experiences that you went through, how you're able to adapt to becoming a manager from just throwing down as a rookie in your first year. What were some of the teachings? What were some of the learning moments that you had?
I definitely think one thing the reason that I didn't, hit what I thought I was going to hit in my second summer was I was too worried about, what am I going to do as a manager? How am I going to be, the best manager I can be? And I just kind of let the little simple things slip of, just simple things, working on your pitch daily, or just like always trying to get your pitch a little bit better, just learning new sales tactics, or just learning simple things. And I feel like I just kind of like put that under the table and just like forgot about it because I did well. And then, come summer, I was just kind of the same coming back. So I definitely think that that's one thing that I could have improved on, that I'm definitely learning from, that I'm coming back in year 3 stronger for. But yeah, managing, it was one thing I definitely learned is you got to lead from the front. If you want guys to, be with you in the trenches, you got to be with them in the trenches too. You got to work alongside them. You got to work with them. You got to work the hard days as well as the easy days.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Leading from the front is just so key, right? Got to show you guys how it's done. I was just talking the other day. I don't know if you kind of had this, but I was talking about how you should know what your multiplier is as a manager. So after a couple weeks, after a month of managing, you should figure out, okay, if I sell X, my team is going to sell X, right? Or my team is going to sell Y, right? So I knew if I went out there, and my multiplier was 5. So I knew if I sold 3, my team was going to go out and sell 15. If I sold 5, my team was going to go out and sell 25, right? Did you kind of have any sort of multiplier? What was kind of your mindset to that?
I didn't know the exact number. I probably should have, but I definitely could tell that when, like, I was at my peak performance and I was doing really well, your office just feeds off your energy. Like, energy is huge in the office. If you're showing up, dragging your feet, and you're like, man, today sucks, I'm going to sell maybe a couple or something like that, your office is going to do a little bit less than that. They're just going to play to that energy. So I think bringing that mentality of, yeah, I don't care. It's pouring rain. Sometimes it's snowing in Canada. We're knocking in the snow in May and June. And it doesn't matter. You go out and pump big numbers in on those days, and your team's like, holy crap, we can actually do this. Let's go get it together and do it. So I definitely think that is a huge factor in it.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of that, what is selling in Calgary like? You obviously sell Calgary, so colder market, non-traditional market. A lot of people chatter and say, "Oh, Calgary's a crappy market to sell in. Calgary has no bugs." What's your take on that? Selling in a colder, non-traditional market. I mean, how do you like it?
I like it. I mean, it's all I've known, but it is what you make it, right? Like if you come into something and your mindset is down here, if you have a poor mindset about what you're doing, that's how your outcome and that's how your results are going to be. It is cold. May, we've knocked in snow. It's cold. May and even sometimes early June, it's that sleet, cold, rain. You're wearing pants, couple jackets, and you're still freezing. And then the next day you're like 35 degrees. Like it's kind of extremes, but I enjoy it. I think it's a challenge sometimes, which I like. Is because when you get a challenging day, when it's super cold and you don't want to go out, it's kind of like I want to go out and sell in this because it challenged me that much more than what a regular day would do, right?
Right. Yeah, I love that. I like to say, bad weather or just crappy situations is just an opportunity to show your grit. Absolutely. Right? It's an opportunity to show your grit. It's an opportunity to show your team, hey, this is how it's done, right? And yeah, just another kind of concept of leading from the front. And I assume probably the people that maybe are, saying, oh, it's a colder market, it's not a pest control market, are probably the people that just hate knocking in rain, probably, right? Because there's a couple hailstorms, I remember.
Yeah, there were some pretty bad storms this year. We were getting like golf ball hail, we were running under roofs and hanging out under people's driveways just to get out of the hail. And like the rain would wash out. You couldn't quite get back to your car sometimes. It was pretty crazy, but yeah, the weather's definitely up and down in Alberta.
Yeah, right on. Cool. So one of the little things that you talked about there was how you like to do daily training, something that you got away from, you mentioned. And it was actually interesting to me because I would say over the course of the summertime, right, daily training for me gets almost less and less, into the heat of the summer. But one thing that I've just taken away from listening to you is that you really prioritize that daily training, that daily sharpening the saw. Just what are some of the benefits that you get from that specifically?
Yeah, I think those daily trainings and those daily sharpening isn't just your sales literature. I think you have to be sharp in everything that you do. Like you got to be on your mental, spiritual, physical. All these things need to be in place and sharp for you to be performing at your peak performance. And so that, like, what my daily routine looked like is, you wake up early in the morning, you go to gym, you got to get your health in there because that's your physical and your mental health. Spiritually, I'm a spiritual person, so I do, I pray, I read scriptures, do those kinds of things. And then when it comes down to it, I like to dig into what I'm struggling with the most or what I feel like I could improve on the most. And that usually comes from the day before. And so if I get stumped on something, if somebody gives me an objection, if I run into something that I didn't know what to say or what to do in that situation, I dive right into it. I look up trainings from our company. I look up trainings on YouTube, like literally any kind of literature I could get on. I'd search it up and I'd come back the next day. I'd study it that night after I got home because it just kind of made me mad. Like whenever I can't do something, it kind of makes me mad and makes me want to be able to do it. And so I study it out that night, wake up the next morning, do everything again, study it again, and then I bring it to the office. And then I, from the other managers and, guys that are really experienced in the job that we have in the office, I pick their brains about it. And then you just got to master that, right? Because the more little things that you can just pick out and get out of your way, the easier it's going to be. It's not going to be easy, but the easier it is going to be to, do what you want to do in a day, right?
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I mean, that is a dialed in daily routine that honestly fires me up. I think over the course of the summer I can get sloppy with my routine. Mm-hmm. And yeah, just from listening to you, it really sounds like you really prioritize that and it definitely, affects your success. On that note, you mentioned that one of your weak points, right, is that from year 1 to year 2 is you kind of lacked that a little bit, especially when you go into management, right? Because you kind of gotta focus on the slideshows. You just got a lot more tasks to do. You can't just do whatever you want before the meeting time. So one of the things I want to ask you, I was obviously down at Door to Door Con about a month ago, and I listened to Jeff Mendez. And one of the biggest takeaways I got from him was just a question that he asked. He said, "What are the gaps in your business?" And what he meant by that was, what are your weak points, right? Where if you can, turn those weak points to strengths, it's going to change everything in your business, or it's going to move the needle into the one thing that matters in your business, right? So, do you have any other weak points besides just, keeping up with the sharpening of the saw that you think you can exploit for this upcoming summer?
I definitely think for me and for my office is going to be team building and team activities that really grow you together as a team. And that starts off like in our mornings together. I think definitely getting together as a team to do workouts or activities and stuff. I feel like a lot of energy is just lost, and like that bond of working together is lost if you're not doing stuff together. Obviously you work all the time together, but you need to get out and do something different with your team. I think that's something that I definitely could work on.
Yeah, no, right on. I kind of like that you take the managing approach to that. I think team activities are so slept on, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of building a culture within your office, it's just the little things, right, that really make a difference. Activity days, incentives, office swag, not company swag, but office swag, right? Throwdown Thursdays, making sure when you go into the office, it's totally upkept and it's ready to go, right? Social media, all that sort of stuff matters so much to creating that culture. A couple of things that really helped me was, number one, roles, like giving roles to your leadership team, right? At the end of the day, when you're running an office, you should be the manager, right? That just manages all the guys doing their roles, right? And also an office assistant. I recommend anyone out there to invest in an office assistant. I had the fortune of hiring my fiance, Caitlin, and she was really, she doesn't get enough credit, but she was the one that really created that extra bit of culture in our office, just because, we were able to do all those little things, and I could focus on what really matters, which is just going out there and leading from the front, right? So I'd recommend that. You might lose a little bit in your first year, but it's such an investment for your team. You're going to have way better retention. And then obviously as you scale, right, it turns into just a small little expense, right? But anyways, yeah, I love that. So yeah, just transitioning. You worked in an office with two legends of Door to Door. I mean, you lived with one and you worked with the other. So for you guys that don't know, Bryn is what the nephew of Brock Wahlberger. Brock Wahlberger is basically the godfather of door-to-door sales. He was the one that introduced Vivint about 20 years ago into Canada. At the time, that was, I think, the first door-to-door company, at least the first big one, that moved into Canada. And obviously, by the time it left Canada, it had 20 offices coast to coast, was doing $100 million of revenue. So what was it like having Brock, as an uncle, and did it kind of prime you for your success? And then the other one I want to ask him about is Chris Steed. So Chris Steed is the branch owner for the Calgary branch. And, he's not doing as much knocking as now, but in his heyday, he worked under Brock with Vivint. And he was not only the best in Canada, but he was the best in the whole entire company of 3,000 sales reps in North America. So he's almost like a legend when it comes to door-to-door. I got to get him on the pod. Probably should at some point. But yeah, just kind of what was it like growing up with Brock as your uncle? And then what are some of the things that you learned from Chris Steed? Him obviously being the branch owner of the office you work in.
Yeah, I think one thing about Brock that's kind of inspired me and really helped me is he kind of like took me under his wing and said, look, I want to show you how to do well at a young age, and I'm going to show you how to take care of your money and make it work for you. But one thing that's always really stood out to me is about Brock that I've always really, really, really liked was the fact that he, the way he treats his family and his personal life, like, he does very well. You wouldn't know. He is like the most down-to-earth person you'd talk to. He's like, he gets on your level. He's super, I don't know. He's just like one of the nicest guys outside of work. Like, you just never know. And I just think the way that he treats others and treats his family is a lot of how he treats people that are with him at work. Like, he treats them like you're his family. And so I think that's one thing that stood out to me, is just the way you treat other people and the way you lead is just, it's not only in the workspace, but it's how you live your personal life. It's how you have your relationships together. And yeah, it's just always inspired me that, he can be such a great leader, both in work and, in his family and personal life. And that's really always inspired me. And he's very motivational. The guy he will get you fired up more than, any motivational speaker you could pay money to go watch. Like, he's, of all people. He's intense.
Yeah. He's a good speaker.
Very good speaker.
Probably the best I've ever met.
Yeah.
Did he like prime you? Like, when you were like 14, was he like, "Hey man, you're going to be a great salesman"?
Honestly, no. No, he never really primed me for it, but I think he kind of knew. Like, I grew up basically the exact same life he did. Grew up on a farm, grew up working for our dads and, working summers, and I don't know. He didn't really prime me for it, but when he presented me the opportunity, I think we both knew that, that there was success there to be made. And, it took a lot of trust because it was a startup company. A lot of startup companies don't go through with it, but after, seeing the things that he's been able to do, I went all in on it with him. And, I haven't regretted anything really, so.
I love it, man. I love it. And how about Chris Steed, right? One of the greatest of all time that has done it in Canada. What are some of the takeaways? What are some of the things you've learned from him?
He's so dialed and he's so articulate with what he does. It blows my mind. The amount of knowledge that he just consumes and stores and uses it just blows my mind. And that's with anything he does. But yeah, in the job, he just had, like, it's almost like a storage of knowledge just right there, ready to go. And anything that comes out, he's just got something for it. And just to see how much of an art it is and how easy he makes it look. It's not easy, but how easy he makes it look is just crazy. And just being around him, being around these people, it really wears off on you. Like, you are the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most. And the more I've been around these guys, the more I've seen, if you're dialed into what you want to do, you can be dang good at whatever you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Power and proximity, for sure. Yeah, I like to say Chris Steed is like this serial killer of door-to-door sales. He's just so, like, cold, rational, and can just pick apart sentences and why they work and how it will, play on the person's psychology and all that sort of stuff. So I'm sure it's cool to kind of have him in your corner. Okay, cool. Now let me talk about your work ethic a little bit. One thing that I've heard lots about is that you just work the hours, and I don't think it's talked about enough. A lot of people don't work the hours. So one thing I want to talk about is your work ethic, right? One thing that I've heard from a lot of people in the company is that you're just so good at working the hours. And I don't think that's talked enough about in this industry. I really think it's a superpower. And if you're watching this and you think you work the hours, you probably don't, right? You can always have better time management, and you can always, push it a little bit more, right? So just talk about, like, what your day looks like in terms of when you knock and when you finish knocking, and how important has working the hours been to your success?
Yeah, that's one thing that I got told early was it's so easy to go to your car and sit in your car when it's hard or when it's hot or when it's cold. It's really easy to do that, and it's a fast, slippery slope. You do it once and then twice, 3 times, 4 times, and it just happens quick. But for me, like, I told myself before the summer, I said, I don't care what my results are going to be by the end of the summer. I'm going to work every single day, the full day. I'm going to work all the hours, no matter what happens. And that's just what that's what I did. And that's what I live by now, even when I knock. 'Cause you can cheat yourself for a day and it might work. You can cheat yourself 2 days, 3 days, and it might work. You can get away with it. But it's just the fact that your brain is, okay, I have to put in less and I can get more. As soon as you start telling your brain that, it's over. But for me, I'm going to work every single hour of every single day. I'm going to work from, whenever we get on the doors, 1, 2, sometimes 10 in the morning, all the way till 9, 9:30, 10 o'clock, whenever I finish up. And I just feel like, for me personally, if I want people to be able to follow me, into competitions, and, have that respect, I have to work those hours. I personally I wouldn't feel right asking guys to work their hours if I'm not working my hours. Like, how can I ask you, James, hey, why aren't you working until 10 o'clock, 9:30 at night when I'm going home at 8 o'clock? I couldn't personally do that. I can't do that. Like, I have to work my hours. And I feel like that just, like, it just rubs off on everybody. And just one of the quotes that I always love is, how do you beat the guy that works the hardest? If there's a guy that's working the absolute hardest in the gym or at whatever it is, how are you going to beat that guy that never stops working? You can't. Talent, hard work beats talent, and talent doesn't work hard. I love that quote, and it's so true, because you can be the most talented guy, but how are you going to beat the hardest working guy in the room? It's tough.
I love that, man. I love that. It's so powerful, man. So powerful. Your conviction behind that is scary. You're a scary opponent. That's for sure. That's for sure. Working the hours there's so many things that are stacked up against us. There's so many uncontrollables with this job. Working the hours is the one thing that we can control, and it's the biggest indicator of whether you're going to have a successful summer or not, right?
I think one thing with that is, like, the pain of discipline and the pain of regret always comes back. That was one of Luke Wahlberger's quotes that he always says. But it is so true. Like, if you're going to give yourself a summer to go make really good money, why don't you do it for the full summer? Why are you going to cheat yourself a couple of days? Because those couple hours turns into a couple of days. Those couple of days turn into a week, a couple of weeks, and so on. Like, if you're going to get in it, get in it. Like, don't dip your toes in or one foot in. Get in it and stay in it. Like, why would you cheat yourself a couple of days short? Like, what good is that doing you? Because you look back on the summer and you're like, why didn't I work the rest of that day? I could have made, a couple extra grand or a couple $100 extra bucks. Like, I could have done that. But no, I went home, or I went and did this, such and such, right? So it's just, how much are you going to regret that in the future? Whereas, do it now, you're not going to regret it later. You never regret working hard.
Totally, man. Totally. I absolutely love that, man. And it's like, taking off a couple hours before one day isn't going to move the needle on your summer, but it will for what it does to your mental, right? Because it makes it okay, right? So if you have one day in the summer where, okay, cool, I'm gonna take off today. I have five accounts. Okay, that's fine for that day. You could argue it's not, but that's fine in terms of the total course of the summer. But the discipline that you lose, right, by taking that day off, right? So I love that, man. And the cool thing about working the hours is it gets easier, right? Like, your first couple of days doing it when you start the summer, yeah, it's tough, right? It's tough. You got that voice in your head telling you to stop. But the beautiful thing is 3, 4, 5 days, once you make the decision of just, I do work the hours, all of them, right? I'm not walking back to the car till 9:30 p.m. And it's just a decision that you make and there's no negotiating with it. It gets a hell of a lot easier. Time flies, right? And that's what everyone should strive to get to, right? Is just not up for negotiation, and making hard work make sense. I mean, you probably realize that with your ranch work, right? Obviously some days are tougher than others, but once you get 3-4 weeks in of working 12-hour days, it's just what you do, right? So I love that, man. Cool. So on that note, right, I want to talk about consistency, because in that is consistency, right? And I think that's one thing that you do really well. Over this summertime, we had that slump as a company. It's like July, right after Champions League, and we saw a huge drop off in numbers across the whole table. And there were only a couple people that were able to maintain, their numbers and maintain consistency, and you were one of those guys. So what kind of advice do you have for reps who are in a slump? How can they get out of that? How have you been able to get out of the slumps that you've been in your career?
Yeah, one question I just ask myself is, what am I doing to get out of the slump? Am I sitting here and am I just wallowing in my unsuccess? Like, what am I doing to get out of it? Am I really actually trying to break the slump and get out, or am I just sitting in it because everyone calls it a slump? Am I just going to sit in the slump, right? But But what advice I would give is, what are you doing in your mornings? What are you doing at night? What are you doing on the doors and off the doors? Like, what are you doing different than everybody else? Are you just coasting and hoping to get out of a slump? That's probably the biggest thing. Like, there's no huge, reveal of how to get out of a slump. Really, it's, are you waking up? Are you healthy mentally, physically? Are you doing the things you need to be doing to be educated on the doors? And are you putting in extra effort? That's what it comes down to. And are you putting in enough extra effort to get you out of that slump? And I think you can honestly ask yourself that question. And are you going to make yourself do that? Because no one's going to make you do it. We can give the most motivational speeches and stuff and get you hyped up, but it comes down to discipline. It comes down to if you're actually going to do what you say you're going to do, right?
I love it, dude. I love it. Yeah, I think slumps are kind of like like the word burnout. Guys getting burnt out, guys getting in a slump. It's not real, right? It's just a narrative that you make up in your head. Oh, I'm in a slump. I haven't sold in 3 days, right? Hope I can get out of this slump today, right?
Those words right there will kill you. Mm-hmm. Oh man, I'm in a slump. I hope this happens. Like, you can't think like that. Say, today, it's happening.
Totally.
I'm selling. It doesn't matter what's going to happen, right?
Right, yeah. Or just be in the present, right?
Yeah.
Every day, just be in the present, right? Understand the law of averages, right? And I think a lot of times, like, just outwork your self-doubt, right? That's what Alex Hormozy says, is outwork your self-doubt, right? So if you got it in your mind, oh, I'm in a slump, whatever it is, like, go out there and just commit to working the hours, and 9 times out of 10, you'll get out. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Cool. So I want to transition a little bit. I want to talk to you about religion, because I've known Bryn for a while, and we've had some deep talks already about it. But me personally, I'm on like my intro in my spiritual journey. And it's kind of interesting because Arjun talked a lot about it last podcast, about how tapping into his spirituality has really helped him out on the doors and in sales, right? So I've been doing my thing. I've been going to church, on Sundays. I've been like praying more often, giving thanks more often. Last year I had a goal where every Sunday on my day off I was going to go to church. I went to the church down the street, just sat in the back, and just kind of had a time where I could just unplug from the phone, sit in the back of church. And honestly, for me, it's almost like just a lecture of being a good person. And we don't have that, in everyday life most of the time outside of the church, right? So that just really helped me just create that set of values that I could follow, and yeah, it just really helped me kind of straighten my head out, and I was able to just transfer, all that good energy onto the doors and serving the people that I was, selling pest control to. So I want to ask you, because obviously you've been in a mission, right? You're from the LDS church, right? And I just want to ask you, right, how has your relationship with God translated to success in sales? What's that? What has that been like for you?
Yeah. First and foremost, like, for me, God has given me everything that I have. Where I grew up, the talents that I have, the things that I have all come from Him. And so for me, it's, I owe everything to Him. Everything that I do, I owe to Him. But I also think that, the relationship, that spiritual relationship, is very healthy, because for me, it's not just a weekly refreshing at church when I go to church on Sundays, but it's the daily, the daily spiritual renewal of, when I read my scriptures and when I pray. For me, it's just refreshing. The world is so busy. It's such a buzz. You're so busy working. You're so busy doing this. There's so many things grabbing for your attention here, there, everything's grabbing for your attention all the time. And I think when I read scriptures and pray, it's just a complete break from the world, where I can feel, a peace that nowhere else brings to me. And it's hard to describe the feeling. It's just being out of the world. In our religion, we talk sometimes about being in the world but not of the world. And basically, it's just, you can be in it, but you don't have to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. And it's just, there's so many distracting things, and I think that my relationship with God definitely it strengthens me in everything that I do. It's kind of with sales, when I'm not doing the little things, I definitely, like, my performance it goes lower. Mm-hmm. And spiritually, when I'm not doing as good spiritually, when I'm not doing those little things in my day-to-day thing, I don't feel as good in my days, like spiritually and like, as a person. And yeah, it's definitely just all my success and everything that I owe is to God for sure.
Yeah. No, I love that. Yeah, having that force within you, right, and having just that true gratitude, that just kind of puts you on a whole nother level with our job, right, going and talking to people and pitching them. It just puts you in a whole different pedestal, right, when you're doing that. So I love that. What about your mission, right? Mm-hmm. How has that, how was that, and how did that translate to sales? Obviously, there's a lot of, parallels to that. So talk about some of the things you learned in your mission, and obviously you had a massive first year. I got to think that's something to do with it.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, when I was in Africa, I knocked doors. Being on a door, someone you have no idea opens the door, and you got to make conversation with them, right? Like, it's pretty on the spot. You're thrown right into it. You do it quick, and so that was definitely one thing that helped was, just learning how to talk to people that you don't know about something. And I think that's where a lot of my work ethic came from too. Was my mission was, obviously, like, I paid to go and serve 2 years, give 2 years of my life to serve people and help people, wherever that may be. And so I think the fact that, just learning to talk to people from different backgrounds, different places, definitely helped, in sales. Because, I mean, really all it is you're just connecting with people and then sharing what you have with them, right? And then, I mean, obviously a little different sales than a mission, but kind of the same concept.
Would you overcome objections, get through smoke screens?
Yeah. I mean, people try to shut the door really fast, and you got to come up with things to get past that, right? But yeah.
Would you have correlation meetings and stuff like that?
Yeah, actually the mission was really structured. We'd have district meetings, as a district of missionaries, so everyone kind of in the general area, and then we'd have a zone meeting, which is like over the big area, and we'd correlate, how we're teaching, how things are going in our areas, what we could work on, things we could do better. And so it was really interesting. Actually, I find it really interesting how closely it parallels with, we meet, we discuss how our work is going, what we can do better, how we can, get this better to have this better. It's really interesting how they parallel, actually.
I mean, it makes sense. I feel like, I don't know if this is a given or what, but the Mormon community is basically, they run door-to-door sales, or at least they were the ones that started the whole entire thing, right? And maybe it's just me as an outsider, realizing that now. But one of the major things that I've noticed is West Coast Canada, right, is where most of the Mormons are. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And that's where most of the door-to-door is dominated. One of the things that I've noticed in this podcast is there's very few large companies out on the East Coast. And correct me if I'm wrong. If you're an East Coast company, hit me up, because I want to learn more about you. I thought there'd be way more, but I'm coming to find out there's not too many. But yeah, it's just interesting, all the parallels, right? And yeah, it's kind of funny because right now I'm very exploratory. I'm not committed to any sort of religion. I'm just kind of going to church. Yeah. I actually went to a Mormon church for service when I was down in Utah about 1.5 years ago. And I like it. It's awesome. But you guys don't drink coffee. So that was a bit of a deal breaker for me, man. I love my coffee. I'm like a 3-4 cups a day guy. So that was I don't know how I'm going to overcome that. But yeah, I'd love to go with church with you one day, bro.
Yeah.
When I'm in Alberta.
Let's do it.
I love it, man. I love it. But yeah, obviously super powerful there, right? I really urge all of you guys listening, especially if you're in sales and you don't have that spiritual, aspect in your life, go and find it. Go and find it, because it's really helped me. And as you guys can tell, I'm just starting out in it, but just learning about just a set of values that you can follow, and have at least one time a week where you can unplug and just listen to somebody. It's really helped my sales game. And yeah, something I got to implement is definitely those scriptures, reading those scriptures, because I know a lot of top guys do that too. So I'll quiz you on that after. But cool, right on. So Let's talk about your goals next year, right? Obviously, you did 189,000 your first year, 202,000 your second year. I feel like, door to door in Canada, we're just getting started, right? We're just getting started. Pest control is obviously, brand new. We see what all the guys are doing down in the States. Absolutely bonkers. Zach Seeger with 1.5 million. Me personally, I'm going for a golden door, right? And one of the biggest reasons I'm going for a golden door is like I freaking have to, with what those guys are doing down in the States, right? So talk to me about your goals, right? What do you want to hit next year in terms of service revenue?
Yeah, I definitely think I want to hit 300,000 for sure. As soon as school's done, I hit the door, so I lose a little bit of time in that September, October, when guys are still knocking, but I definitely want to hit that as a personal goal. But obviously, as an office, I think this year we're going to take the Dynasty Cup. That's my goal. We've got some absolute studs working this year that are upcomers that are, I think, going to be some of the top rookies in the company for sure. I want to take my team, and I want to come with my team to the beach here. And kind of on a more deeper level as an office, I want all my reps to just feel like they're hitting their goals and achieving what they want to achieve. I want nothing more than the guys that come and work at our office to feel like they are doing well and like succeeding at the job and succeeding in life. Because that's one thing I notice when managing is, guys come in with a mindset and you just see how they change. You see how they're, some guys, how their lives change. And it's really cool to be a part of that change in their life. And I feel like now that I'm at this point, that's what I like to see the most is people changing for the better and, being who they want to be. And I find that really interesting. I really like that.
I love it, man. I love it. 300K. I think that's easily achievable, man.
Yeah.
I think you even got to bump that up a little bit.
Yeah.
I think easy you could do more, man. One of the biggest things that Seeger talked about was just belief, right?
Yeah.
You're never going to outperform the vision that you have, right? So, man, I enjoy that. Besides the little dig at the Dynasty Cup, all right?
I think
Relax.
we've got the best chances here. We've got some.
For you guys that don't know, Dynasty is like our company cup that we all fight for every year.
It's office versus office, and the winners get to come enjoy a week in Cabo, and it's a battle at the end of the summer, but
Yes, sir.
I got confidence this year. I think.
All right. Well, we'll play it back when we win. We'll play it back.
Yeah.
But right on. Speaking of Cabo, man, we got to get back out there. It's 25 degrees, and the unlimited food is waiting. I think we're gonna go play some football, so it should be good. I'm gonna make sure I give you a big old tackle out there.
Yeah,
but let's land the plane a little bit. I want to hear a piece of advice for you because obviously you just had your sophomore year, right? You had a killer year. What would be your biggest piece of advice for rookies who just finished their first year and are going into their second year? What would be your biggest piece of advice for those people?
I'd say don't get off the train, because when the summer ends, you're like, holy crap, I'm burnt out. I'm ready to have a full, whatever it is, 6, 7, 8 months off before I start work again. But don't jump off that train. Because as soon as you do, it's so easy to just put it under the table and say, I'll pick it up in January, February, March. And those months creep up really fast. So I would just say keep dialed all year long. Just do small, simple things daily or, every other day to keep you in the game, basically. Because when you check out, you're checked out. That stuff, it's just going to sit back there. And then you got to bring it all back to your, the front of your brain. You got to bring it back up out of that knowledge. And I would just say, don't get off the train. Do daily things that are going to keep you in the loop. And, you're never going to, I don't know, there's no level that you can hit where you're just going to be like, okay, I'm the best that I can be. The best people in any industry that you look at are still growing. I watched this podcast the other day. The best basketball players in the world, they still have trainers. Why? They don't need trainers. They're literally the best basketball players in the world. It's because they're mastering their craft. They're always looking for little ways to improve, to be better, and to get better at what they do. That's why they're the best. It's not because they hit a level and they're like, okay, I'm the best, and they just sit there. And it's the same thing with this job. If you want to be the best, you have to have the mindset and the work ethic to be the best. You got to do those little things day in, day out that are going to make the biggest difference. And it's stuff you don't realize. It's just the little stuff every day that you do that's going to make the biggest difference, right?
Love it, bro. Love it. Ended it with a little mic drop there. I love it. Don't rely on your experience. Make sure you're putting in the work, taking care of those little things. All right, awesome. Well, that's episode 2. Bryn Nelson. Thank you so much, bro. This guy is just a guy that's just so virtuous. You always know, he's going to do the right thing, and he's just a joy to be around. So I appreciate you, bro. Appreciate our friendship, and that's a wrap.
Thanks,
right
man.
on. Thank you guys for watching. Cool.
Thanks for having me.
Let's do it. Let's go play some football.